Hey, guys.
All right, go ahead and raise your hands if you have questions for Coach. Kip, go ahead. Then Brendan.
Yeah, hi, Roy. Two teams very similar in that you're both very young. You're 6 out of 10 in your rotation, freshman, and Kentucky going with, again, a relatively young lineup. How does that, what's your take on that?
Puts more gray hairs on my head. I don't know if John would say the same thing, but it's a learning process, and we've tried to speed it up as much as we can, trying to throw as many things at them, trying to review and review and review and review. It's hard to get where we want to be without the game action. I still go back and say this was the worst year to not have an exhibition and a scrimmage, because I think it would have really helped our guys. But I think John would probably agree. He's got a gifted group. I've got a gifted group. They've got to get better. Each and every day, Coach Rob always taught to pay attention to detail, pay attention to detail. We're talking about that all the time. I know John took them back to boot camp this week and practiced a couple of times every day. But the bottom line is they've got to learn it faster than we cannot afford to have these guys taking as much time as they normally do to learn these things.
Where is NCL?
Christian Keeling, that was him.
Brendan, go ahead. Then CL.
Hey, Coach. I was just curious. You have talked a number of times so far this season, usually post-game, about the process with Caleb and trying to get him at the point where you'd like him to be. What have the conversations been like in the last couple of days since the Central game with him, as far as shot selection and obviously you prefer to sort of run the offense from the inside out rather than the reverse?
Yeah, and we're having these conversations all the time, and we had some of them today, not just with him, but with RJ and with our whole team. I think that we've got to understand what we as a staff want to do, because we as a staff think our plan will be successful if they do a great job of executing it. So they've got to buy in, which I think they have, and then they've got to do a great job of executing it. But it takes time, and I'm looking out. I see some guys that may have been the ones that were asking me 10 years ago or whenever it was, 8 or 9 years ago, are you sure Marcus Page is going to be that good? And I kept telling everybody he was going to be really good. And I got a lot of guys giggling and looking at each other like I was dumb as dirt, which I may be, but I think that Marcus proved that he was really, really good. And so we're hopeful that Caleb will latch onto it and do it in a manner that Marcus did.
Thank you.
And RJ as well. It's not just Caleb, but I mean, it's both of them.
CL, then Ross Martin.
Yeah, Roy, speaking of RJ, what would you say has been the area he's progressed most in since the games have actually started occurring, and you could point to stuff on film that he's done against other opponents?
I think he's done better defensively. That would be the major thing. You still have to understand he's a guy that was the second leading scorer in New York State high school history, I think. And if he had the end of their tournament hadn't been canceled, he may have had a chance to catch Kenny Anderson. So he's a scorer, and that's the way they think. And you've got to get them to understand we want you to score, but we want you to score off great shots, not score because you shoot 35 times. That's the one that's the most difficult, because he is a scorer. He's going to be able to score at our level, but I need him to shoot a much higher percentage. And I think defensively he's probably progressed, and I think he's beginning to, both of them are beginning to understand what a great shot is compared to a good shot.
Ross, then Adam Smith.
Hey, Coach. I was wondering the ways that you've seen Armando improve just this season compared to last season. He mentioned the physicality. I know it's something you want him to work on and scoring around the basket, things like that.
Well, I think simplifying his game. This week at practice, I said, why did you do that? That was your triple spin move. And he hadn't been doing that all year. It's just catch the ball and try to score. So he's got to limit himself and simplify. And for the most part, he really has done that. You guys remember, against Wofford, he's 2 for 14. And, against 6'6", 6'7" guys. And I think simplifying for him, and he's done a nice job of it for the most part this year, has been the one single thing, other than the fact that he's in better shape physically than he's ever been in.
Do you think Dayron has really pushed him to get better? Have you seen that over the offseason and in practice now?
I think that Dayron's pushed everybody, and perhaps they've pushed him as well. He's had some big-time practices, and there's going to be plenty of minutes for those guys. I'm not worried about minutes for those guys.
Adam Smith, then Jerry Tipton.
Hey, Roy. You were right about Marcus Page, too, by the way.
Were you one of the guys shaking your head?
I've always agreed with you, I think. What is this process like of shifting on the fly when, a couple days ago you thought you're going to be playing Ohio State and now you're playing Kentucky? I know nothing is the same as it used to be, but just what's that like for you? I mean, it just mentally, and then when you get that call, just what happens?
It was unbelievable. I mean, I would never been in any situation like this, but that's this whole year, as you said, getting the call at 10 o'clock Tuesday night or 8 o'clock Wednesday mornings when you actually told me. Yeah, Clint came to see me, and I was throwing all that humongous amount of weight around in the weight room, and he came and found me on Wednesday morning. And that's the first that I'd heard about it. Am I doing that, saying that correct? Yeah, he gave me a what if the night before, and then the next day said it's no longer a what if, is it will you do it kind of thing. It was upsetting a little bit because I think that we've got to understand this are not normal times, but I think this decision might have been able to have been made a few days earlier or something like that. But it's a situation we're faced with, and you got to make adjustments. I had already started talking to the team about Ohio State and how badly they beat us here last year and those kind of things. But it's the same thing for the other teams as well.
Jerry, then CL.
Yeah, Roy, I wonder, you guys obviously struggled last year. Kentucky's struggling this year. How, being at an elite program like North Carolina or Kentucky and struggling, how does that impact a coach trying to move beyond, to solve the problem and go forward?
Well, it's jokingly said more gray hairs, but I've never experienced a year as long as last year's was. Everybody can say it's the same amount of minutes, hours, days, but it was like 15 years for me. But you got to learn from it. You got to look inside yourself, and I did that. I don't think I did as good a job as I needed to do. I couldn't get the kids to buy in like I'd gotten them to buy in the past. The players have to accept that and do a better job of buying in. And then our third thing is we were injured so much, and yet that sounds like an excuse, but it's hard, Jerry. I mean, and John, myself, this is our life. Other than my family, there's nothing else that I think about or care about, really. And so it is extremely difficult, but every day you just got to keep trying something different, see if you find something that can work.
And just as a follow, are the weight of expectations, I would think at Carolina, like Kentucky, every year is supposed to be great. Mm-hmm. How is that something that a player has to deal with?
Well, the players feel tremendous responsibility. There's no question there. Most of the questions about intelligence are usually aimed at the coaches. So I was a lot dumber last year than I was in 17, I guess. But other people's expectations shouldn't drive you, and they never have for me. It's just what I thought. But Jerry, you've probably heard this from me before too. I always feel like that I've got more care and more concern in my little finger than everybody else does in the world put together. So it's something you have to be able to handle.
Thank you.
Luke, CL, then Luke Leiden.
Hey, yeah, Roy, Armando mentioned Sterling Manley being back practicing some, and I just wonder if there was a timeline when you thought maybe he'd be back actually being able to play in the lineup.
I have no idea. Don't think it's anytime soon. And we like the fact, but guys, he hadn't run from the baseline to the center line yet. It's just been half court. We haven't done anything with him full court. Don't know that we can do anything with him full court. And it's like I said to somebody else last week, I can assure you, we're not going to surprise you guys by running freaking Michael Jordan out there and not let anybody know what the hell is going on. This is a process, and you know how much he did yesterday in practice? Not 1 second. And if we practice tomorrow, I don't know if he'd do anything tomorrow. I get the information from how he's feeling from our trainer, and he and Anthony both haven't been involved in any full practice in any way, shape, or form. And initially, we were hoping January. But I have no idea if that's going to be legit or not. We'll just have to wait and see. But we're not going to surprise anybody, I promise you.
Luke, then Archansky.
Hey, Coach, we appreciate the time as always. I'm curious, does your mindset or message to the team, is it different this season compared to years last because maybe you have some inconsistencies or you can't find a rhythm? For example, NC State didn't play for 2 weeks. Knowing that there is so much uncertainty with COVID, does that message change, or is it the same as it's always been in terms of prepping for games and opponents and things like that?
Well, it is different because you don't ever know what the next day is going to bring. I mean, guys, last year we were hurt so much I'd find out at 11 o'clock or something who was going to be able to practice today. And now, you know, with what's going on, every day I get up and try to see which team has paused their activities, which football game was canceled, which basketball game was canceled. But with the kids, once you get out on the court, it's still coaching. It's still the same thing. But guys, they're facing more uncertainty than anything close to what we've ever had in the past. And it's difficult. I mean, we're trying to make sure that we can let our guys go home for 3 or 4 days at Christmas. And we're talking about testing differently and more frequently and doing all these things. And we're wearing little chips around our neck in practice. So at the end of practice, I can say how long I've been close to Armando and how long he's been close to Garrison. And, you know, that information is going to be something that'll be helpful to us. But once you get on the court, it's the same message, but everything outside that area is completely different.
Art.
Hey, Roy, I just heard you say that, you know, you try something else, but we've all heard you say a million times that you're stubborn as all get out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect you to go to a 2-guard front or start running the Creighton offense. Can you explain what you mean when you say, an example of something, when you try something else?
Well, with Art, and that's a good question, but with freshmen, they haven't seen any of the other things. I mean, we tried an out-of-bounds play today in practice that we ran 4 years ago. And it's something that I've always believed that running around in my brain, it's a bad place for anybody to try to be because it's such a weird brain. But trying to bring out an out-of-bounds play now that we haven't run in 4 years is some of that. How we play the screen on the ball, we change that up a little bit each and every year. But during the course of that, I'm not going to do something, as you said, that I don't really truly believe in. But there's little changes. How do you play the guy in the corner, strong side corner? Do you support off of him and be late to get there for the shot? Or do you say if strong side corner, we're not going to help off of? And I've coached both of those different ways, and some of them I'm more comfortable with. But the other thing for us, we had Bobby Frazier, Marcus Ginyard, Tyler Hansbrough, 3 guys that started the first game, but Bobby was always the point. Marcus was always the 2. Now I've got Caleb who starts at the point, and if he goes out, I've got RJ who was the 2, and now he's the 1. So things like that are more unusual this year than we've had in the past, probably.
Jared,
one more follow-up. And we've seen on defense, you've seen Caleb play the 2 and RJ play the 1. I think that's right. And
Yes.
Is that some of the things that you try and change around?
Well, generally both of them have to be able to guard the point guard, but RJ being smaller usually guards the smaller guard, and Caleb takes the bigger guy. And then if I bring in Andrew, then Caleb goes to the 1-man and Andrew guards the 2-man.
Thanks,
Gary. Gary, did you have anything else for Coach? I saw your hand still up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about what you remembered about Olivier Starr playing Wake Forest, and what sort of a challenge is he to deal with?
Well, he can really score. He has that tremendous size. He can shoot the basketball. He can, if you take a look away, he can all of a sudden slip behind you and take a lob and dunk it. He was really successful. I think, and you guys probably know, I thought he made one of the all-conference teams last year, but a very, very good player and one of the best, I would think, transfers in the country. And especially, well, now everybody gets eligible. Hell, if you're born in a year that has 4 digits, you're eligible to play the next year. But so I think that's a little bit different, knowing what was going to happen. But he's an elite player and a guy that can shoot the ball facing. He can post you up, can run the floor, a very elite player.
And as you know, Kentucky's 1-4. What sort of frame of mind do you think they would be in going into this game? Would it be good to maybe try to jump on them early and, discourage them?
Jerry, I'd like to jump on them early, in the middle, and late, and after the game's over with. So we try to do that crap all the time. But you still look at that team. Who have they lost to? They lost to Kansas. Kansas is pretty good. They lost to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's pretty good. They lost to Richmond. Richmond's pretty good. It's not like they've lost to me and you and 3 other guys, but they're gifted players. John does a great job, and I don't look at them as 1-4. I mean, we're 4-2 ourselves. We've lost 2 games, and we haven't. I don't think we've got anybody afraid to play us.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks.